Hi everybody, welcome to another cozy review of an arc that I read just in the nick of time, and that is When the Moon Meets Your Eye, Hits Your Eye, When the Moon Hits Your Eye, there we go, that's how the song goes, by John Scalzi. This is so fun. I have only ever read Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi, and I loved that book so much, and I also really loved this one overall. The interesting thing about this book is that it does not follow like a single character, but it is following several different moments for only a couple times of repeat characters, but for the most part we're getting very different perspectives of a grand situation, and that situation is the moon is suddenly cheese, or really some kind of organic material that resembles cheese, and it has become volatile with eruptions of steam and cheese, and no one knows why this has happened. It just happens in an instant, and it's very confusing, and the whole story is kind of the reactions of various people around the world and how the moon turning to cheese has affected their lives. And I loved that. I thought that was such an interesting aspect of this, and seeing from anything from an astrophysicist or from an astronaut scheduled to go to the moon and having that upended by this, to a little kid as a writer growing up in the world. And it had so many different aspects. A cheese shop in Wisconsin, two cheese shops in Wisconsin's rival cheese shops in Wisconsin, dealing with this whole incident, billionaires and what they will do with their money for this. And it just touches on so many different not cultures, but like, well, cultures and different types of personalities and the reaction to this, because things are like, the science behind this, John Scalzi writes in the afterwards, had loosey-goosey and stuff, so he tried to keep things pretty vague, but he did consult things. So, you know, it's kind of, it's a what if situation, and trying to make it as realistic while still holding on to the humor as well as the humanity side of aspect of this. So I really, really, really like this. We followed a lot of different characters, some that I really liked, some that I'm like, I don't care about that story too much, but the writer story obviously got to me as a writer, and I loved the fromagerie and democracies in Wisconsin. Those were probably my two favorite moments. I also like the guys in the diner. That was great. And the astronauts. I thought the astronauts were very interesting. Hated the billionaires. Felt so bad for the sex worker story. Not bad for, like, she won overall, but, like, what she had to witness, you know. Want to talk about weird-ass kinks? Yeah. It's fantastic. It's just so good. I think the timing between each story that we get, it's almost an anthology of sorts, because each little chapter you have these like news articles and stuff reacting to the moon turning to cheese, and then you have a little story like, here's one in Ohio, and like, I am totally using this for a couple prompts that I have of where you need to have it set where you live, because we travel all over. We went to Ohio, Texas, Maryland, Delaware, Wisconsin, Illinois, Ecuador, New York, Las Vegas. We went all over the country, so I was definitely using that in my spreadsheets to count on settings, because it's set all over the world and space. I really, really, really liked the handling of the billionaire, of one of the billionaire characters, I would say. That made me incredibly happy, and also annoyed for certain things. I don't want to spoil what the billionaire plot line is, but it felt like, yeah, this would be a thing that happened. And then when everything's said and done, the ending of this book involves how people after the fact reacted, and like with kids who grew up before the change, and or like after the change has already happened. So, you know, just all these different aspects of it. And also with the world, because the moon has now changed, and how that has affected Earth as a whole, and possibly could lead to Earth's demise by the end of this book, and people coming to terms with, okay, we now have a timeline on when the end of the world possibly could be. And that was a very interesting kind of aspect of looking at human life and things. So it's a fairly short book. I think it's still 300-ish pages and stuff, but it was just so well done, and I really like this. I really need to read Starter Villain, because in the afterword, John Scalzi does say that they're not connected in any way, but they're like a series of his weird science fiction books. And I want to read all of them, really. And I think they're all very, very fun. I just really like his approach to writing, and I like how it's like it's not matter of fact, but it is like factual while still being fiction, obviously. It's just in the style of prose. It's like it's presenting these characters very well without like any kind of purpley prose or anything, but still being very emotive of these characters, where you don't realize how emotionally attached you're getting to them until the chapter's over and you're like, oh wait. So I think he's just a master world builder, master character creator, especially in like short form, because all of these feel like their own separate short stories. We go back a couple times, like the Fromagerie in Wisconsin. We do return to that story one or twice. And like the astronauts we talk with a bit. So I just really like this book. It's really good. It comes out tomorrow, March 25th. Just a great time. Highly recommend this for anybody. So I'm so happy that I got the ARC for this, and I hope to continue reading my full library of John Scalzi, because I have a bunch of backlist John Scalzi books. Just need to get to them. So I'm hoping Starter Villain or Red Shirts are the next two that I want to read by him right now. And then I learned that he lives in Ohio. So John Scalzi, if you're watching this, I just moved here. Hi! I just hope that means that there's like signing events nearby, and I can go meet him and say hello and not be weird. Not be weird. Let's not be weird. Okay, that's it for today's cozy review of When the Moon Hits Your Eye and stuff by John Scalzi. Okay, go check it out. Bye.